This amazing Milwaukee Brewers team doing things that we have never, ever seen. They are taking us to new heights. We'll tell you about that next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Great to have you along here late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning on Locked On Brewers. My name is Chuck Freimund, proud host of Locked On Brewers. Grew up here in Wisconsin. Most people in the state of Wisconsin, their favorite team is the Green Bay Packers. Mine, on the other hand, the Milwaukee Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers. You better believe it, man. Grew up in Milwaukee and longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin. And great to talk to you guys every day. Yes, the Milwaukee Brewers are taking us to new heights. They are doing things that we've never seen in a good way with the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll tell you about some of those numbers coming up here in a little bit. Pat Murphy might not even been the first choice, wasn't the first choice to manage this baseball team, but he's turning out to be, one of the best managers in Brewers history. I'll tell you who he compares to. We'll tell you about that a little bit later on in the show. Some good news on the injury front for the Milwaukee Brewers on several players, and we'll look at Wednesday's matchup. Going to face a tough cookie with Strider on the hill for the Braves. We'll get to all that coming up next. But this Brewers team right now, 69-44. 69-44 after another convincing win on Tuesday night. And all these games have the same pattern. Get off to an early lead. Lately, get off to an early lead, get some big hits, some 2-out base hits all over the place. They had one extra base hit. They're getting singles, nickel and diamond people, and just putting away a bad team, not letting a bad team hang around like the depleted Braves, like the Washington Nationals over the weekend. And that's a sign of a great team when you don't let teams hang around. And the Brewers aren't messing around, and they're out to a 4-game lead on the NL Central, and the rest of baseball, they're just pulling away from things. Cubs got beat again, and I could not wait today on Tuesday. I could not wait for this game to start. I don't know about you, but man, I'm getting up every day, and you got to do your work and all that. I'm a sportscaster here in the state. I do other things, but I'm just like looking at the clock, man. I can't wait for 6:15 to start. I'm ticked off. It's an afternoon. It's a night game and not an afternoon game Wednesday, because I'm chomping at the bit waiting for tomorrow's game already. But on Wednesday. But there's 3 night games in Atlanta. Usually on a Wednesday afternoon, the final game of a road trip or when you're going into somebody's city, it's an afternoon game. But it's a night game for some reason in Atlanta on Wednesday night. So we got to wait a couple more hours before we enjoy our Brewers baseball. And enjoying Brewers baseball is what we're doing. 69-44, 25 games over the 500 mark. The fastest the team has been 25 games over the 500 mark in franchise history through 113 games. And I laugh because, most of our lives, the Milwaukee Brewers, at least my life, have been mediocre to bad, right? Lately the Brewers, if you're a certain age group, you didn't live through some of the bad times with the Milwaukee Brewers. This kind of reminds me of when the Packers became good in 1992. They were breaking all sorts of records because the Packers had been bad for so many years, since the Ice Bowl days, right? But this Brewer team, 25 over at 113 games. It's the fastest they've done that in Brewer history. Now, in the last 60 games, the Brewers are 44-16. That's the best in franchise history. 44-16 in the last 60 games. How about this? In road games this year, in the last 29 road games, the Brewers are 23-6 in their last 29 road games. That's shocking. That's stunning. Absolutely stunning. And you look back, since like the Cubs series they played in mid-June at Wrigley, the Brewers have lost 2 in a row twice. Against the Mets, they got beat in the second game of a doubleheader in late June and then lost the next day in New York. And then just a couple weekends ago, they lost the first 2 games to Seattle. Other than that, I mean, you got to scratch your head every day to think, God, when's the last time the Brewers lost? And like right now, if you think, when's the last time the Brewers lost? Oh, that's right. It was the Cubs game last Wednesday at home. I feel like the Brewers have been gone for like 3 weeks. It's like, please come home. And they're coming home on Friday. But yeah, the last loss was last Wednesday against the Cubs when they got destroyed. And one of the few times that they've been destroyed here in the last couple of years. But the wins, look at their game log. It's WWWW. It's constant. They don't lose. I was joking about that yesterday in the podcast when a guy says, well, I know they're going to eventually, they're going to lose some game. I'm like, well, who knows? Who knows with these guys? I mean, right now we're talking getting 100 wins, 100 wins. I just want them to get a top 2 seed in the National League. That's what I want. I want to avoid that wild card round. That wild card round has been our nemesis over the last few years. I don't have to tell you that, especially since we've gone to that best of 3 at home, where the Brewers have actually been eliminated in these last 2 years by Arizona 2 years ago and the Mets last year. So they've had the home field advantage, but they got to get that wild card round and advance and play in that divisional playoff round. That wild card round, and by doing that, you got to have one of the top 2 seeds. And they're very capable of doing it. I mean, they're capable. They're the best team in baseball. I don't care what anybody says. And I saw Cubs fans out there say, and I could care less. But I don't care what the Cubs fans say. But people in general will say, well, the Brewers are beating up on bad teams. They're dominating these bad teams. You can't control what you got in your schedule, right? It's not like the Brewers scheduled and say, well, the Atlanta Braves, when the season came out, this looked like to be a tough 3-game series because the Braves are supposed to be World Series contenders. Washington started off the season okay, and then they fired their general manager and their manager, and things really went south, and the Brewers swept them in the season series. So you can't never make an excuse for winning. And don't apologize. Anybody comes up to you and says, well, the Brewers are just beating bad teams, they're looking for an excuse to discredit the Milwaukee Brewers. This is a great baseball team. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, man. They're doing things right now. Regular season, they have been great. You don't trip and fall into 69 and 44. Don't let anybody try to downplay this or whatsoever. 69 and 44, and doing it with guys on the injured list, and you're not playing with your preferred starters or playing with guys who nobody's ever heard of before. Really. I'm like Isaac Collins. I said this in my short video I did earlier in the night. Isaac Collins comes up with like at least 2 RBIs a night, right? 2 RBI, 2 runs single on Tuesday night. Kind of put that one out of reach. Went from 5-1 to 7-1. But I mean, the Brewers are, and Andrew Vaughn, another guy. Well, what's on tap for him? Well, another big RBI, 2 RBI night. Andrew Vaughn just keeps on churning out, and the Brewers are developing and winning games. And I think Isaac Collins, I'm going to take that back. What I said several weeks ago, I said, Ike Collins is probably just a 4th outfielder. You know what? The litmus test has gone long enough, man. This guy is something special. And maybe it's taken him a little longer to find it because he was a Rule 5 pick and he bounced around a little bit. But Isaac Collins is the real deal. I'm sold on Isaac Collins. I'm all in. You got me. You've come up. I mean, he's hitting like 285, but the number of clutch hits and the home runs and all that, Isaac Collins, you're an everyday player right now. I'm sold. A couple of weeks ago, I wanted to go out and get myself another outfielder. Said, Isaac Collins can be the 4th outfield. No, I'm in. I'm all in on Isaac Collins. If I regret that, so be it. I'm in on Isaac Collins. Isaac Collins, an everyday baseball player. Just amazing. And I see the TV comparisons with Isaac. I don't know how they're comparing him to Isaac Washington from the Love Boat, but they brought it up on the broadcast the other day. Josh Mauer had no idea who Isaac Washington again. And I get it. The Love Boat was a TV show from the 70s, like the mid 70s to the mid 80s. And Isaac Washington was a bartender, probably one of the few people living from the cast of the Love Boat. But Isaac Washington, I've seen the memes out there, and they were talking about Isaac Washington, the comparisons. Yeah, there's no comparison to Isaac Collins and Isaac Washington from the Love Boat. But for some reason, Isaac Washington is being brought out of the mothballs because no one's been talking about this guy forever. And now I see his memes all over Twitter and all over social media. Good for him. Isaac Washington seemed like a good guy. I can't remember what his name was in real life, but I know because Love Boat was one of my favorite TV shows growing up as a kid, and it still remains one of the best TV themes of all time. I digress. I'm going off the roadmap. But Isaac Collins, whether you're comparing him to Isaac Washington, Isaac Hayes, Isaac Newton, you name it, Isaac Collins is the man and an everyday player on this team. And the Brewers are everydayers. You're an everydayer because you're listening to this podcast every day. I'm an everydayer. And I'm already hearing people comparing this team to the 82 Brewers. You know, people like me who grew up with it. Two different type teams. That 82 Brewers team who almost didn't get to the postseason, had to win on the final day of the regular season, game 162 in Baltimore, almost didn't get to the World Series, had to rally from an 0-2 deficit to win the next 3 games to win the American League Championship Series, which was a best of 5. So, yeah, the comparisons, I mean, the 82 Brewers, those guys were Harvey Wallbangers. I almost called them Bambi's Bombers. That was the teams before that with George Bamberger as manager. I'm going to talk a little bit about that when I talk about Murphy coming up here in a little bit. Pat Murphy, a guy who got a courtesy interview because he happened to be on the coaching staff, turning out to be one of the best managers in Brewers history. How was this guy not a major league manager on a full-time basis? He was the interim manager, but on a full-time basis ever before. I will get to all that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Gameday Hue, great to have them aboard here as a sponsor on Locked On Brewers. Today's episode, Gameday Hue. Gameday Hue, let me tell you about them. They make clean, no logo wear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. The Brewers, you'll get the blue and yellow. I got a golf club. I got a hat. Works great in game day. And, of course, on the golf course, anywhere in between. You don't have the giant logo, Brewers logo, just smart, versatile style colors that work on any game day. And right now, go check them out. Go to GamedayHue.com. That's H-U-E, GamedayHue.com, and check them out. You make a purchase, use my promo code MLB15. You'll get 15%. And that code even stacks on bundle deals. So now it's time to load up. Let your colors do the talking because colors speak louder than words. Wear your blue and yellow from Gameday Hue, GamedayHue, HUE.com. Use the promo code MLB15. Good to have you along here on Locked On Brewers. And by the way, thank you very much, everybody, for all those messages you're sending me on Twitter. Chuck Freimund, Freimund. Heard from New Jersey, Wisconsin, Iowa, all over the country today. And continue. Let me know. I always want to know where you're, because I'm just so intrigued by that. Let me know where you're viewing the podcast from. Do it on Twitter, Chuck Freimund, Freimund, or Facebook message me as well. Let's be friends on Facebook. Well, we might not know each other, but we're all a Brewer community. Chuck Freimund on Facebook. Hit me up. And by the way, our podcast, you get it on Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major downloads out there. We're the number one Brewers podcast on the internet because you guys out there. And of course, hit me up on YouTube as well. Search Locked On Brewers on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and leave comments on there as well. I read all your comments every day, man. I read each and every day. And if you want to DM me a message about the Brewers or whatever, I will always, my promise is I will always get back to you. That's a promise from me. Thanks for making us your first listen to and being an everydayer here on Locked On Brewers. All right. Pat Murphy, after the game on Tuesday night, he was asked by, I believe, Todd Rosiak from the Journal Sentinel, if he's just taking some of this in right now, what the Brewers are doing. And Pat Murphy doesn't really think like that, right? And that's why Todd asked the question, because sometimes Murphy literally does not know what day it is, because he'll say, well, I mean, and it could be a gimmick that he's doing or whatever, just playing that role of I don't know what day it is, one of those kind of deals. But he was asked about taking this in, this 60 and this 46 and 14, this 44 and 16 record over the last 60 games. And he was, he's pretty laid back. These managers aren't rah, to be honest with you. He said, you know what, right now we have to be even more disciplined than ever. I love that. More disciplined than ever. A lot of teams out there aren't disciplined. And this Brewers team is very disciplined. Well, they got picked off. They've been picked off in each of the last 2 nights. I'm not loving that really. But they go out there and they work pitchers, long counts, 10, 11, 12 pitches sometimes. They work over pitchers. They get into great counts. I mean, Andrew Vaughn did that on the hill today, working over the starting pitcher for the Braves. Just working him over, the left-hander. And the Brewers do that. If you play for Murphy, you can't be lazy, and you got to be focused. Murphy kind of said off the cuff the other day, and this is part of his gimmick. And I don't care if you show up a half hour before the game, long as you're focused. Long as you're focused for every game, and that's the key. And who does he remind me of? Yeah, he reminds me of Harvey Keene and George Bamberger, 2 other older managers in Brewers history. Both had success. Both had really good success. Bamberger was the first winning manager in Brewers history, came along in the late 70s, and then Harvey Keene managed the 82 Brewers. By the end of 83, they made a managerial switch, but he was great, and he was a player's manager, and so was George Bamberger, and so is Pat Murphy, a player's manager. So I'd compare him to those 2 guys right there. Ken Macher was an older manager here. Didn't relate to the players at all, as we all know. That was about 15 years ago. Otherwise, yeah, I can't think of too many other older managers off the top of my head, but Keene and Bamberger, 2 of the more successful older managers in Brewers history, and Murph falls right in. Again, it begs the question, how did Murph not ever become a manager? Just think back for 2 years ago. Remember, we were all worried if Craig Counsell was going to leave and all that. And who's going to be the next manager? Is it going to be Kevin Seitzer? Who's it going to be? And when Pat Murphy was named manager, yeah, it was kind of a buzzkill. We were sitting back there thinking, oh no. I mean, and we all thought Ricky Weeks would be the manager in waiting, right? Murphy was going to show Ricky how to manage a game. And that was it. Now you don't even hear about Ricky Weeks, right? Nobody even thinks about Ricky Weeks managing this team. This is Murphy's team, and he can manage it until, I guess, the wheels fall off, right? Because eventually that's what happens to coaches and managers. Eventually the wheels fall off of all these guys. But he's the right manager for this team right now. He's the best manager in baseball. Meanwhile, Counsell down in Chicago, Sleepy Craig, his team sleptwalked through another game. That's Chicago's problem. That's the Cubs' problem. And that $8 million, we saved that from Counsell. And you know what? I don't think this team would be doing quite what it's doing right now under the easy, irritable Craig Counsell as opposed to Pat Murphy. Yeah. Courtesy interview. They just gave him a courtesy interview, and Pat Murphy turning out to be just an amazing hire. Just an amazing hire. All right, we come back. Well, you know what? I want to update you on the injuries real quick. Shelby Miller made a rehab appearance. Looks like he is going to be back very soon. A 1.98 earned run average. Certainly the bullpen is going to be able to use him. The Miz, a bullpen. He's only covered, he's recovering from a bruise, so it's not like it's a tendon or a muscle or anything like that. Threw a bullpen on Tuesday. Churiel, the biggest news here, they say 2 to 4 weeks with him on his hammy. His hamstring's getting better, but they say 2 to 4 weeks. Frelick, knee is improving. He's been available to play every day. He's been available off the bench if they need him. Frelick available every day. The knee is improving. Robert Gasser, kind of an afterthought right now, but obviously part of the future of this team. They say late August. We don't really need Robert Gasser on this team right now. Plenty of guys ahead of him. Rob Zastrizny. I always have problems with that name. That's why I just refer to him as Robbie Z. He will soon be back off the injury list as well. All right, we come back. Tough matchup on the hill on Wednesday. But this is the Milwaukee Brewers we're talking about here. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Monarch Money, with our family, Monarch Money shows us that we go out to eat way too much. Monarch Money is going to show you where you spend your money, and it's up to you to do something about it, like not spend in those areas. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, all your investments, and spending in one place. So it's going to tell you where you're spending your money. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth, which we all want to do. We don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. Monarch Money is going to help us save some money. And right now with Monarch Money, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com. You're going to get 50% off your first year. monarchmoney.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB, half off your first year. To tell you where you're spending your money, Monarch Money, they're already saving you money, 50% off the first year. monarchmoney.com. All right. Thanks for tuning us in every day here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's see. Quintana's going to take the hill for that 6:15 Central Time Zone start against Atlanta on Wednesday night. He's 8-4. Pitched into the fifth inning last Friday. He was a beneficiary of 16 runs. Quintana wasn't great in his outing, but the Brewers just exploded offensively in the first game of this road trip last Friday against Washington. Now, Spencer Strider is going to take the hill for Atlanta. Right-hander. 2 years ago, he won 20 games. He's 5-8 this year, 3.71 earned run average, strikeout pitcher. He's coming off 8 days rest. He was supposed to pitch Saturday over the weekend, and there was a rain delay. They had that. The Reds were playing at that speedway, and he was supposed to start. He went through his pregame, and they decided not to start him. So he has not pitched in 8 days. Last appearance was July 28th. So Spencer Strider taking the hill for the Braves, and he's really good. Not making me forget about Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz just yet, but Strider put together a 20-5 year 2 years ago. Coming off a couple of hamstring, battled the hamstring injury earlier in the season, but he's going to make the start. And I see the Braves are a -140 favorite, maybe -150, depending on where you're looking. Are you kidding me? How are the Braves favored against the Milwaukee Brewers? How are they favored in this game? I don't care if I don't care if Glavine or Maddox or Smoltz were starting in this game. Nobody should be favored against the Milwaukee Brewers right now. The Brewers are that good, right? I mean, the Brewers have been favored in all these games against these bad teams, Washington and Atlanta right now. I looked today, about the seventh inning. I said, see what the line is. I bet you the Brewers are probably a 130 or 140 favorite. What? They're underdogs? Run to that FanDuel account, my friend. My goodness. One other note, Durbin back in the lineup. Bad at leadoff, went 0 for 4. Murph was asked before the game about the question that most Brewer fans want to know. We talked about this on the podcast yesterday. Why isn't Caleb Durbin in the everyday lineup? Boy, last 3 games he had sat out. Murphy says, and this could be just Murphy, again, his gimmick and BSing us. He says, well, he was not moving well. whatever that means. Durbin, according to Murphy, was not happy because he was not been in the lineup. But Murphy says he needed a couple of days off. Sometimes with a rookie, you got to give guys days off. I don't know. Again, what these guys say, these managers and coaches and general managers, sometimes take it with a grain of salt when they're talking about stuff like this, because they're not going to tell us exactly why he benched Durbin. Sometimes they do, but he says, well, so the analytics, what Murphy was trying to say, told him not to play Durbin in the previous 3 games, but he's back out there against the lefty, and he took it 0 for 4. Right-handed pitcher on the mound on Wednesday night. We'll see if Durbin is back there or if they go with Ziegler over at third base. It's going to do it for another podcast, everybody. Thanks for following us. Again, you get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you download your audio podcast. We're the #1 Brewers podcast on the internet. Please, when you subscribe, it's all free. Hit the subscribe button on all those and the alerts and alert you every time we drop an episode. And of course, our growing YouTube page. We just hit 6,000 followers, so 600 subscribers. Please subscribe to YouTube on our YouTube page. It's all free. All the content is free. I wouldn't lie to you. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode. And follow me on Twitter, Chuck Freimund, Freimund. We'll talk to you all late Wednesday night. Hopefully the Brewers complete the road sweep and go 6-0 on this road trip, heading into a big series with the Mets this weekend at home. It's going to be good to see these guys back home. They got the Mets and they got the Pirates, but we'll talk more about that on Thursday night. But tomorrow night, we'll be recapping this game and talking about whatever Brewer news is the news of the day. Enjoy this, Brewers fans. Like I said, we're in uncharted water right now. Sit back and enjoy it, man. This is fun. Race to your TV. Enjoy it. I know some of you said you've watched the game a couple of different times. You'll watch the rerun. Good for you. Man, I love it. We're here every day talking Brewers baseball with you on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.